'cause I don't know. Manny always says this. Oh, maybe it's a bad cable. Oh, here we go. And since this always gives us a few seconds of me just staring like an idiot at the screen while this is telling me that we're about to go live, I think we're actually live. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you are, all around the world. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube. Brought to you by the folks at Nerd Caliber, who are also here on YouTube. And yet again, I'm hearing myself, and I'm turning that off. There we go. And of course, our website, nerdcaliber.com, and all the social medias and the stuffs where you post things and so on. I'm Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, and Burly Adopter on Twitter as a tech journalist and a bunch of other things. Joining me tonight is the semi-Hagrided, the Hagrid after
Hagrid
he had to shave his head because of the lice outbreak.
It's a real problem.
It's a real problem. Introduce yourself if you would, vested one.
Even all, Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama cosplay and or photography, depending on when you catch me. Anybody who was here a couple weeks ago, I was in a full Hagrid cosplay for our weekly nerd news. I've been doing on a big Facebook group. I've been doing nightly readings on Facebook Live of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, because as you can tell from my Rubenesque physique, I fill the Hagrid clothing quite nicely. That said, there's only so long I can leave the wig on. So the wig's gone. I was too lazy to change out of the vest and throw a sweatshirt back on, so I'll leave the natty leather vest on. So if any of you are familiar with any of the folks around the New England cosplay community, the vest and the shirt were made for me by the incredibly talented Mink the Satyr, who's well known around here for her stunning couture cosplays. And her incredible sewing skills and design skills. And it's, speaking personally, I can darn socks and I can sew, a towel. But when it comes to especially working with suede, that was outside my skill set. So I'm very fortunate to have friends that I can call on and have them design and work together. Back in the distant dark past of the summer, when you could actually be in the same room with another person and sharing a bottle of wine with somebody and, being social, which now we have to do using these cameras.
Exactly. I mean, I can share a drink with Greg. It's just, you're not going to hear the clink. So,
Chin chin.
Ching ching.
Chin chin.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Boy, do we have a lot of people here already, and already one who bailed. So that's cool. Mimi, yes, first. Chase, hello. William, hello. Unicorn Heart Girl, hello. Kayla, hello. Luminous, it is not almost time. It is time. Of course, when you typed it, it was almost time. Plushy Tunes, welcome and goodbye. Sorry to see you leave. And I will answer you what happened to the Bonnie from Five Nights at Freddy's in 2016. That individual is not terribly active in the cosplay scene anymore. We are trying really hard to get him back because he is amazing. We do have other costumes and other people that occasionally do that sort of stuff, but he was so good. Yeah, we really definitely want to get him back into the show. Also, Plushy Tunes, by now, I'm an MM Ice Guy fan now. Okay. Sorry,
All right.
I don't understand that. And Mark Hamill, Joker, an Outlast Whistleblower fan, your name is way too long, so we're going to call you Whistleblower. You've never seen this channel go live before. We've been doing it for almost 2 years now, right? Every Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So,
Welcome.
we're here. Welcome. Exactly. The Bro. I'm glad you love the Bonnie videos. We love making them. We desperately want to make more of them if we can find the right person. Anyway, starting off with our first subject tonight, we don't have a ton, but we got a couple of really cool things at the end that are going to take some jarring, I think. Speaking of Jaws, what a transition.
Nice segue.
Thank you.
You've
Uh,
been saving that one all night?
literally just. Anyway, what just appeared on your screen there is a Star Shark and Cosmic Ghost Rider, who is one of Marvel's newer versions of a Ghost Rider character. Anyway, take way too long to explain Cosmic Ghost Rider. But the Star Sharks are, according to Taika Waititi, going to be in Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder. And aside from just the fact that, oh, cool, we get sharks, that actually has a fair amount of.
Sharks in space.
Hmm?
Sharks in space.
Sharks in space, which is cool, but that actually has a fair amount of potential significance to the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe. The reason that could be significant is the Star Sharks are an X-Men property. They are the bio ships, sort of like the ship in Farscape, for any of you that were Farscape fans, and I know we have some. Rodimus Primal, welcome to the show. That carried the Brood, the horrible insect-like, lizard-like, we're really not ripping off Alien, but we are monsters, alien, horrible beings that were in the X-Men series. So either the Brood are going to be in Thor 4, which means that Disney Marvel is now starting to use intellectual property it got from Fox. Just the fact that the Star Sharks are in there is intellectual property it got from Fox. Yes, Star Sharks have appeared in Thor comics, but they were created for X-Men, which means they belong to the X-Men universe.
So, given how much Disney paid for Fox, does that come out to be about $186 million per Star Shark?
I don't know how many are going to be in. It could be just one, in which case it's 21 billion per Star Shark.
That is motherfucker of a shark.
That is, and there goes our monetization. Oh, no, that's right. We can swear once or twice before they kill us.
Sorry, since you mentioned aliens, and because I literally just happened to have this sitting here for no apparent reason.
Nice.
Very much like an alien egg.
Yes.
I think it's a dragon egg. We'll know soon.
Put it under the heat lamp. The Bro Jaws goes to space. It would be a good movie. That alone would be a good movie. But then again, wasn't one of the last Sharknadoes? Didn't part of it take place in space?
Oh yeah. There was a space shuttle, and if I remember right, when the space shuttle exploded, they jumped into a shark and went through re-entry successfully, hit the ground, and walked out of the shark.
Yes. Can Ian Ziering survive anything? Yes, he can survive being taken, have a photograph taken of him by me. Super Megafest 2016.
If you can survive being on set with Tara Reid for 4 or 5 movies, you're basically Superman.
This is true. Unicorn Heart Girl sounds like a good movie. So it's Taika Waititi doing another Thor movie, and Thor Ragnarok was amazing. So,
yeah, it was.
And the Jane Foster Thor story is one of the most wonderful changes that they've ever done, even though, of course, it was temporary, to the Thor mythos. That arc, if you can buy that collection or the graphic novels or however they put them together, do it. It's fantastic.
It's probably on Comixology.
Yes, it is. I do know that. In fact, I would have bought it if I hadn't already got all the individual issues. So check it out. Again, this has been kicked forward because of all of these changes. So we're now looking at. We talked about this last week, and now I can't remember. Key release dates: February 18th, 2022. So we have to wait until 2022 to see what the Star Sharks mean. If this is going to be part of the introduction of the X-Men universe to the MCU, that implies that it's not going to happen until 2022 or later. And that would kind of probably fit with what we know about Phase 4. there aren't a whole lot of unknown release dates that are in there. There were a couple, but those have now all been filled up by everything that's been pushed off because of the pandemic. So, who knows? Does that mean X-Men in 2024? Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that, you know, some of us.
We're all still alive.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly those of us that are about to hit the risk factor. The other risk factors.
Does it suddenly kick in a week?
Apparently so.
The virus is smart enough to know when your birthday is and be like, aha!
2 days, actually. So we're moving on to our next topic. Let's quick jump past that.
There we
Old
go.
people talking about old stuff. Luminous, will Christian Bale play the Star Shark? Yes. No, but that's an awesome thought.
Can we hopefully suggest that to Taika and get that to happen? Because
somebody get onthemove.org to get that petition happening right now. Let's do it.
Or Josh Brolin, he's already on board.
That's true. Our next topic is, so that is, of course, the big title screen for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And the news broke. I was pretty hesitant about saying this was actual news, but apparently it's been picked up and confirmed by a number of places that Sam Raimi, who has long been rumored to be taking over as the director for Doctor Strange 2 or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, is in fact, has said, he has confirmed, he will be doing it. And he did it as just like a little throw-off line at the end of a question about the Doctor Strange reference in Spider-Man 1 or 2. In Spider-Man 2, when they were coming up with ideas for, the character name, and Ted Raimi, who plays Ted Hoffman, is throwing ideas at J. Jonah Jameson, and he says, Doctor Strange. And Jameson goes, oh, but it's already taken. And they just threw that in there as a real toss-off. And Raimi says, who knew that, now 20 plus years later, I'd be doing this movie? Like, confirmation. Yes, Sam. Luminous. Yes, Sam. Jenna. Yes, please. Agreed and agreed. Jenna, welcome to the show. Just slid right by that.
They are, yeah, I mean, obviously that was 20 years ago. That was before there was any real, the degree of traction with the MCU that there is now.
And it wasn't an MCU movie, so.
It wasn't an MCU movie, of course. But there was that little thing in the back of my brain that was like, that would be just like what's-his-face from Marvel. I'm blanking on his freaking name. The producer who's shepherded all these movies through.
Kevin Feige.
Kevin Feige. All I can think of was Paul Feig, and very different directors. Yes, Kevin Feige. I'm like, yes, I could see him playing that long of a long game, that he dropped that one little morsel in there 20 years ago. Didn't happen, of course, but...
He was a producer on a bunch of early non-MCU but Marvel films. I'd have to go back and look if he was a producer on this one. Because you just created yourself a wonderful conspiracy theory there, my friend. Did Kevin Feige plant that suggestion in Sam Raimi's mind 20 plus years ago? Exactly. That's Inception right there, folks. That's some deep Inception. So awesome.
Should be cool.
It's very cool. It's going to happen. Sam Raimi is amazing. It'll be interesting to see how he tackles the cosmic weirdness that is supposed to be what this is about. How he deals with the fact that we know that Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, is going to be a big player in this. My guess is as sort of an antagonist, and how that plays out. But with as we talked about last week, the kickover of everything, we only have to wait until November 5th of 2021 instead of May, which is when it was supposed to be. So not a year and a half. Hey, we'll have a vaccine by then.
Oh, 2021. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, not 2020
My
or 2022.
sense of time is so completely warped at this point that you could have said 1921, and I would have sure,
Yep,
okay.
yep, sure. Luminous, Sam, just don't have Benedict Cumberbatch dancing down the sidewalk. Your
Yes.
lips, God's
No.
ears. But if you do, make sure he's got that emo slash.
There you go.
Because, you know,
You know, the funny thing is that for some reason, whenever you say Sam Raimi, I think Sam Mendes. They're basically the same director, right? Basically.
exactly. You know, Skyfall?
Yep. That
And the one
was
before it. He did those two Bond movies.
so basically. Wow, that's a funny idea. So all of the new Doctor Strange movie is going to be one single continuous 98-minute long shot.
Like
Entire.
1917. Exactly. I can't even begin to talk about this, but did you see the most recent John Oliver coronavirus segment from his show
Yes.
talking about 1917? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's.
Yes,
If you're adults, kids,
that was definitely not PG-13.
go watch that on YouTube.
Funny as bleep, but very, very not
Yeah.
PG-13.
But very funny.
Yeah.
Referencing again Benedict Cumberbatch.
And never mind.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Never mind.
Thank you for that
Go
self-censure.
on.
Moving on to that is an image from the multi-award nominated comic book from Boom Studios, Lumberjanes, and the news is that Netflix has signed a deal, a massive publishing. What do they call these? Development deal. Thank you. Who am I thanking? Thank you, Brain, for coming up with that. Development deal with Boom Studios to make all sorts of Netflix movies or series or whatever out of Boom Studios content, including Lumberjanes, Something is Killing the Children, Once and Future, and Mouse Guard, which, if you were ever a fan of Redwall, Mouse Guard, check it out. The Lumberjanes is the story of a bunch of campers at this camp that has the best name ever. I'm going to have to look it up because I know I'm not going to get it right. Miss Quinzella Thisquin Penequiquil Thistle Crumpets Camp for Hardcore Lady Types, also known as the Lumberjane Scouts. And it's a mystery story, or it's an ongoing series of mysteries, sort of like, I guess the mystery aspects of some of the Archie comics, but featuring lady lumberjacks, lady lumberjack camper student, etc. Sadly, I haven't read any of these. It's supposed to be really, really good. Jenna, yes, we are super excited for Lumberjanes anime.
Did somebody just throw a dart at the dartboard of things to put into a comic title?
Oh, you mean with the camp title?
Lady lumberjack camper mystery solving.
Oh yeah.
Solving mysteries.
Yeah, it's like, how many different genres can we? Well, first off, let's do an LGBTQ positive, LGBTQ forward comic book that is a lumberjack camper student mystery comic book. Like,
I hope they make a lot of really, really good brawny references. They take that smug bastard down a notch.
Exactly. I don't know if that's the case. Jenna, do they ever make in the comic book any references to brawny? But yeah. So
you mentioned. So I'm actually not familiar with this at all. This is seeing the story on our site was the first time I'd seen any of this. Is Mouse Guard based on the Red Guard series?
You mean Red Wall?
Or is it just Red Wall series, rather? Sorry.
I believe it's a different IP. Jenna, is that correct? As Mouse Guard is not based on Brian. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose his name.
Brian Jacques.
Brian
Was it?
Jacques.
Yeah.
We say Jacques. It's not Jox. It's like the French Jacques.
Jacques.
Um, book series and the wonderful little cartoons that were made out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Those were fun. I remember reading a few of those once upon a time.
I read them with my son. So
Awesome.
I'm looking up Mouse Guard by David Peterson. It doesn't say that it is. Jenna says she's not read too much of Mouse Guard, but her son is into it. Mouse Guard is not Redwall. Similar concept. Sentient mice live in a medieval era, paralleling the same age in human history.
Cool.
And Jenna says Jakes is in fact the pronunciation of the author of Redwall.
Jakes. Cool.
So
Okay.
I'll take your word for that. Even if it is spelled Jacques. I
Jacques.
just trimmed my beard. I can't twirl my mustache like that. Darn it.
Did the story mention? I only had a chance to read sort of the beginning part of that. That one in particular, is that going to be animated? I hope, please, preferably.
So they don't say. They've made. In fact, they haven't said for sure that they're going to do all of these or any of these. These are the properties that Boom brings to the deal. But the deal does cover live action and animated series. So I've got to assume that, I mean, it would make sense for both of them to be animated, but you could certainly do Lumberjanes as a live action. But, you know, it doesn't say in here. There was something in here about the deal. Yeah, so Boom had a deal for a $150 million animated movie of Mouse Guard. That was supposed to happen at what's now 20th Century Studios, when Disney came along and bought the Fox right out from underneath them, and then canceled that movie. So, you know, we don't know what. I mean, if the movie was in fact going to be animated, one would assume they've already done a fair amount of prep for it, and so maybe they could take that whole concept and just move it right to an animated series on Netflix. But we'll have to see when they start putting out announcements about exactly what they're doing with this deal, with this intellectual property deal.
Cool.
After the Lumberjanes, we get into gaming stuff. This actually happened the day of our last show, but I didn't get a chance to put this information up in there. That is, of course, the new controller for the upcoming PlayStation 4. It looks really cool. It is, of course, a DualSense controller, or that's what they're calling it. It's the update to the DualShock. This is a wireless version. I like the design. I like the look. I think what it says very clearly to me is that all of the supposed leaked designs for the PS5 are inaccurate, because that doesn't look like it would match anything that I've seen that's come out yet.
From a design standpoint?
From a design standpoint. And they do have a tendency to like to match these designs up.
It's white and black. That could just be a mock-up for, same as, say if you ever read things about, new models of cars coming out, they skin them with all sorts of crazy stuff on the track.
That's true.
And then that's nothing like what they look like in production. Or it just could be white. Who knows?
It's true, although this is an official release by Sony. This was released to their PlayStation blog. So this image, that is not a leak. Unlike all of the supposed PlayStation 5 actual boxes. Those are all leaks, or supposed leaks. So this is the official release. But you're right, they could literally have just put like a white skin on what's otherwise going to be an all black, or a black with the blue stripe or whatever. Yeah. And that's it.
I don't know about for initial release, but knowing I'm more Xbox than PlayStation, but there's been loads of skinned Gears of War special versions and Borderlands special versions that have, it's the same basic hardware with a, coat of paint on it.
Right. So this would be what the Portal special version, the GLaDOS version.
It does have glowing blue.
It does, and white and black. It's actually kind of very GLaDOS looking. That just occurred to me.
Mm.
I wonder if that's some sort of release. That's it. You've heard it here now. First, there's going to be a new Portal game. No, there isn't. I'm lying, or wildly speculating. I'm wildly speculating.
Just use the air quotes.
Air quotes, exactly.
Absolves all responsibility.
It's a new haptic feedback system, adaptive triggers for the L2 and R2 buttons, built-in microphone array, and a new create button in place of the share button from the DualShock 4. We don't know, they don't know in this article from Kotaku what the create feature actually entails. Let's hope it's actually magic and will create stuff.
It creates portals.
It creates portals. You heard it here first. Air quotes. Anyway, that's cool. We'll get more information, obviously, as future virtual conferences happen, because we ain't going to see any others like E3. Yeah, exactly. All right, now we come to Disney. What the hell? So that is an actual cell from the original Robin Hood animated movie made by Disney back in the 60s. And the news here is that Disney is going to be making a Lion King-esque, imagine my air quotes again, live action version of Robin Hood. So the characters will look like that. They will be, anthropomorphic bear and fox and snake and all the other stuff. Tiger. Is it a tiger? No, lion. John. Etc. But they will be done in the style of Lion King in that they will try to look as human. Essentially, they're going to be making an awful early version Sonic the Hedgehog version of this, as far as I can tell. Why?
And you forgot the I don't know, best worst. Another factor, a musical.
So
didn't this article say that it was going to be a musical?
I'm assuming so. The original had songs.
Yeah, it had songs.
The musical comedy was a big hit. It will remain a musical film. Oh, 1973. Wow, I thought it was 60s.
73, yep.
It will remain a musical comedy. All right. Roger Miller wrote the songs for the first movie, and that's the best thing about that movie. His songs, Roger Miller is a country music poet. Just, and a funny one at that, but also serious when he needs to be, and he's really amazing. If they don't update this and have Little Nas do all the songs, I'm rioting. Can you imagine Old Town Road type songs all the way through this?
Please kill me. I don't beyond the simple fact that Disney is just going through their own back catalog and redoing things because they can and because they will make money. And they basically have just given all of us the giant middle finger and said, we're going to do whatever we want. You're going to give us $1 billion in ticket sales when we do it. And, so what? We don't care what critics say. I don't get who this is for. I know a lot of parents will have watched this with kids. I remember watching this with my parents when I was a kid. I've probably watched it once in the last 8 or 10 years. I don't really remember it super well. I remember it being a little oddly off color for G-rated Disney. Not so much off color as not particularly PC. I could be remembering that wrong. But who is this for? I mean, is this like a sentimentality play? I don't
Well,
think there's a lot of
aren't they
people that
all sentimentality and nostalgia plays?
sure.
But I think to your point, who's nostalgic for this?
Right. I mean, Lion King, say what you will about it, it made sense. There were people who grew up watching the original and having something new they could, look at fondly, watch with their kids, etc. Cool. That made sense. It was didn't make it a good movie. Same with Aladdin. I get those. Same with Beauty and the Beast. All of those there's a logic to the audience. This doesn't have a lot of logic to the audience beyond, it's cheaper to reuse their own IP than it is to buy someone else's.
I've got to assume that what they're doing is they're making this because they need something in the pipeline of this technology to either test out new technology for something else that they're planning on making, or just to keep iterating on it to make it better and better. So I was 13 when this movie came out. It was in my wheelhouse. I don't remember seeing it when it came out. I don't think I saw it until like the early 80s. I mean, that's how much of a just bloop this made. Um,
It's cute.
yeah, no, I
It,
mean, I've seen it, but it
it's a
wasn't,
cheap cell animation Disney movie.
yeah.
You
But
know,
it's, if you think that there's a target audience out there, it's my age. It's people that are in their late 50s, into their 60s, who remember this fondly, and maybe there's a huge Robin Hood fan base out there that I don't remember and I haven't interacted with, but I don't think there's a whole lot of people out here that remember this fondly enough to go, yes, we're getting that updated animation version.
wait, I actually think I think I just figured it out. Um, all the casting can be done via Zoom. All the voice talent can send in their dialogue recorded from their homes. All of the animators can work on a computer, send them home with a Spark station. And this
Spark
entire
Station.
thing, they still use those. That's what a lot of CG is done on. Um, this entire thing could be made remotely for people who are remote, who are stuck at home.
Yes,
Boom,
but that
solved it.
applies to literally any CG product they could make.
Sure, of course, of course.
So we're not going to
Don't
come up with an answer to
don't
this.
don't get in the way of logic with me.
Darn you and your logic. I'm going to go with my theory that they basically just need something to iterate on for something later on. That there's something bigger that they're, maybe they're going to do, I don't know if it's bigger, but it's certainly more popular. Maybe they're going to do Fox and the Hound, and they need to make sure they get Fox for a right or something. Um,
Sure.
sure, yeah, sure, sure. All right, we don't know when it's coming out. They just announced that it's going to happen. So, no.
Let me put it to our audience this way. If you like the idea of a cute, family-friendly Robin Hood with singing and dancing, watch Robin Hood Men in Tights by Mel Brooks.
Family friend? Yeah, okay. I don't know about the chastity belt scene, but other than that,
I mean, it's covering all of her bits.
that's true. That's true. Good point. All right, moving on to our
Moving
next
on.
topic. Wow, I just realized that this is our second LGBTQ positive story of the show. The news is that is, of course, a screen grab from the animated series on DCU, Harley Quinn, and that is Harley and Ivy, Poison Ivy, who are friends and roommates at various points throughout this whole series. The news is that it has been confirmed by the showrunner that season 2 will start exploring their comic book canon lesbian relationship. And that was something that an awful lot of people were a little upset about season 1. I mean, aside from the purists who are upset about the fact that, Harley doesn't have a New York accent, is that it didn't touch on that part of their relationship pretty much at all. And from what he is saying, that is not going to be a problem in season 2. You're going to get to see them, well, I don't know how much you're going to get to see them. They will become more of a couple. They will start exploring, as the way he put it, that relationship. So, good on you. Showrunner's name is Patrick Schumacher. Not to be confused with Joel Schumacher. I hope. Last name spelled differently. Yeah.
I was thinking Michael Schumacher, who is totally unrelated, but
Ooh.
Joel is more in. Let's not even talk about Joel Schumacher and DC properties.
Exactly. He made his mark, and it was a skid mark, for the most part. So it's coming up. When is season 2? When is season 2? It's not in this article. I think
I gotta think a lot of that's dependent on when people can be back to work.
True. Although again, this is all it's animated, so like you said, this can be done pretty much remotely. I'm thinking it's probably going to be like the last one. It dropped in the fall, which DCU likes to do with its properties. Late fall, right? I think with Harley. Harley was late fall. So
I would not. I remember we were talking about season 1, in a segment quite some time ago now, before it dropped, and I remember we were talking about Kaylee Cuoco. That's a odd choice for Harley. I don't know if she's got the range to pull that off, but I've probably seen about half the season, give or take. She's good. She's really good.
Lake Bell as Ivy is really good.
She's excellent. It was a nice surprise that somebody you thought was potentially kind of a one-dimensional actor. They don't come much more three-dimensional than Harley Quinn.
She's a complex character.
Yeah.
I like the fact that even in this show, as wild and profane, she has her almost Rick Sanchez moments where she reminds you that she has a doctorate. She's a psychiatrist. She's a.
Oh, you mean Harley?
Harley, yeah, not Cuoco.
Kaylee
as far
Cuoco
as I know,
has a PhD.
I do not believe that Kaylee Cuoco has a doctorate. It would be pretty cool.
I mean, I know Natalie Portman does, but anyway.
Miriam Balak does, who was also on the show, but yeah,
that's true. So does Brian May, but that's a very different story.
Yes. So that's really the only story with this, and I thought we were going to talk more about that, but I guess not, because there isn't much to say other than it's a good series. Watch it if you haven't. It is definitely not Batman the Animated Series G or PG level, no. So be aware of that.
As Alex would say, it's got more than a little bit of the ultra-violence.
That is true. Oh, all right. Since we've got some time, just complete sidebar. I'm a big fan of Bob Chipman and his escape to the movies, his various shows, various channels. And he did a big picture that just dropped a few hours ago that is a look at Takeshi Miike's films. The insane director who directed the Yakuza live action after being the main producer of the first Yakuza game, but also directed Ichi the Killer, Audition. He is known for some of the most transgressively violent and gory, like stuff that don't eat food before you're watching it level movies. And apparently some of his latest projects is he did a whole series of 3 seasons of a TV series that is about middle school girl idol groups who are also like magical girls fighting monsters. It's a Super Sentai Kotetsu Love Live Idol mashup, live action, aimed at girls 2 to 6, and is killing it. It's like one of the most popular shows in Japan. So
I mean, it's easy to forget the fact that George Miller did a bunch of Mad Max, then he did Happy Feet 1 and 2, Then he did Fury Road.
Yep.
So
Babe, Pig in the City. Now,
also Ape. Yep,
yep.
exactly. Forgot about that.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
anyway,
it's amazing. These
that's wild.
directors have range. Who knew?
That's awesome.
Um, it's your boy. Welcome to the show. What is happening, or happening? But either way, you have tuned into just prior to our very last segment in our Nerd Week Live news show, where we talk about nerd news from the previous week. We just finished up, on a sidebar about Takeshi Miike movies, but we just finished up talking about the fact that Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy will explore their lesbian relationship in the upcoming season 2 of the Harley Quinn animated series on DCU. And what we're about to get into, and this is me and Greg gonna be like just drooling all over our microphones. That is the first image that was released. This was yesterday. All of the stuff has been released on Vanity Fair, of Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides in the upcoming Dune movie. And I'm still super, super excited. And as you'll see in some of the other images that I've queued up here, thank you, Vanity Fair, for letting us steal them. We'll give you proper credit. Hopefully, don't demonetize us. There's also some concerns. So let's move to the big group shot before. I don't even know how much I want to tell people. The book's been out forever. There's already a movie. There's been two miniseries. So they start on a nice planet and go to the desert planet. This is them on the nice planet. And so what just jumped up to your screen is basically most of the cast of the Atreides family and their retainers. So again, with the curly hair, you can see over there to screen left is Paul. The heavyset guy is the actor who's playing Thufir Hawat, the Mentat. We've got Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
As Duke Leto, standing next to his wife, the Lady Jessica, Rebecca Ferguson. Yay. You get to see in the background, standing in front of the Imperial Eagle. Well, it's not Imperial. It's the House Atreides Eagle.
The Atreides sigil.
Is Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck. And they say in here, and I'm assuming he's very far forward. Well, no, he's not big enough. I don't see in here that supposedly in this image is also Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. But
there's no one. Well, it could be the person in the foreground who's a step down and still heads taller than people.
That's my thinking. Him. He doesn't look broad enough, but also Momoa shaved for this role. So he is clean shaven. Yeah. Now, here is a screenshot of Denis Villeneuve directing Javier Bardem as Stilgar, the leader of the Fremen. So you get to see how the Fremen wear still suits, which is an important thing in the movie. In the book, if you don't know what that is, it's how they live in this desert world. I like the design of the still suits. I'm not crazy about them. That's nothing interesting or new to me. And you'll see better image of that later on. I guess that was the next one. So the next one. This is Paul and Jessica out in the deserts. I'm assuming after they've fled something horrible that happens, which we won't talk about. Because again, even though the book's been out for 60 years? No, that means actually pretty close. 55 years. We don't want to give out spoilers because you want to see the movie and it's got a lot of really surprising twists and turns. But you really get a good view of the still suits and how they're set up and so on here. Why didn't I include any of the Atreides armor? Because that's the stuff that I find the weakest.
Yeah. I mean, the colors are right. But I mean, I said this to Rodney earlier today when we were texting about these. For a movie that's got the budget that it does, unless they spend all of their money on the cast just to get them on board and had no money left over for costumes, which obviously I'm being facetious, this looks like fairly generic, off the shelf. Like, I feel like I could assemble a costume like this for Wasteland Weekend.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, good point. Exactly. One of our cosplay and photography expo panelists, Colonial Armory, designs more interesting Warhammer 40K armor than this stuff.
yep.
Grandmaster, welcome to the show, and that's one too many O's in poop. So, but whatever you're saying about poop, well,
That all I could
happens.
hear was the voiceover guy who does honest trailers say poop.
Um, yeah, don't watch the new honest trailers of Cats because,
Oh God.
spoiler alert, he has people sing in rhyme all of his commentary.
Ah,
It's kind of
nope.
genius, but it's also as horrifying as the movie seems to be.
That's awful. Yeah.
So I'm still so excited about this. As somebody has pointed out
As
in
well.
one of the comments among my friends about, they are also not particularly thrilled about these designs. This is Atreides, and as somebody said, Atreides is about the most vanilla group in the entire book or movie. We have no idea what the Imperial House Carino stuff looks like. We have no idea what the Harkonnen stuff looks like. And some other articles said that apparently Villeneuve is confirming that the Baron Harkonnen, the main villain, is going to be a lot more frightening than he has appeared as yet in any movie. So we could still go completely wild on all the costume design. My big problem with this is that you've got the opportunity in a world that is more than 10,000 years past our current time, that has seen a rise in technology to a level that there were AI that almost took over the universe, and then they were stopped, and humans have been basically genetically modified and bioengineered to be AI. That's what a mentat is. And can travel through space by, with ridiculous, amazing technology. And the armor looks like G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. Come up with something. At least in the first Dune movie, while most of the costume design was pretty boring, still suits are kind of interesting. The one CG that they relied on really heavily at the beginning anyway were the shields.
Yeah.
And the way they did it as sort of intersecting planes of energy was really creative.
Yep.
I really liked that look. We don't have any idea what that's going to look like or what any of the other technology, other than some of the ships that are going up to the Guild starship,
Yep.
Which look kind of like just big transport boxes, like somebody's lifted something right out of Starship Troopers. This looks like
that to me is okay, because like the books don't focus on, they're not what I would think of as hard sci-fi. They don't fetishize ships, they don't fetishize weapons per se. They're critical, but they're not, Frank Herbert doesn't go into a whole lot of detail.
Right.
He goes into a lot of detail about the navigators and how they use the spice to do what they do, but not the engine designs. I mean, maybe some of the later, after the fourth or fifth books. I think I read the first canon 3 or 4. I don't know whether like the Brian Herbert stuff got into that more, but yeah, I mean, that's fine. What kind of bothered me was that it looked like middling cosplayers first time out with foam.
But with better finishes. But yeah.
With better finishes, to be sure. But just like the bulky, blocky design, it looked like EVA foam more than it looked like what is presumably, a professional costume designer, armor designer, sculpting something, casting it, making, resin with actual metal finishes, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see where that comes in.
Yeah,
I
again,
meant to
I
say,
don't know why I didn't put this in here, but there's a shot um, of Gurney, not yeah, of Gurney Halleck, of Josh Brolin, uh, that has a couple of other people that are in the armor, and the knives are wonderful. That's the one thing I really like is the design of the knives, because most people fight with knives because the shields that they use are designed to stop anything with a high kinetic energy, so bullets and beam weapons just bounce off of it. So you have to come in at exactly the right speed to stab somebody, so that you're not too fast that the kinetic energy of your own blade bounces off. Um, but uh, one of the people standing behind him, there's a person in the background that has a full helmet version of the armor, and that actually makes it look better. Not great, but it makes it look better. And I'm wondering whether or not they're going to be doing CG things like they did with the spacesuits and armor in the Lost in Space movie,
hmm,
where Matt LeBlanc, his helmet sort of builds up in sections around him, and then somehow, I'm assuming with nanotech, grows a face shield. Um, that would be cool. If we see elements like that that sort of enhance what is otherwise this, like you said, kind of bog standard cosplay design armor. Um,
be a little disappointing, especially given how lush and elaborate and genius the visuals and the technology references were in Blade Runner 2049,
Absolutely.
his last movie. Whether you loved it or hate it, obviously not everybody loved it, but it was absolutely gorgeous, and it had a truly unique to that world, that universe aesthetic that was just consistent and nailed throughout. So I'll readily admit this because I'm a huge fan of the book. It was one of the first real deep thinking type of sci-fi books that I read that wasn't just space opera. So I'm obviously a big fan. I think as long as the acting is good, the writing is good, the storytelling is good, it's cohesive, it manages to actually tell the underlying story about colonialism, about ecological disaster. Um, I'm not gonna come out of there going, well, it was great, but the armor was stupid.
I I agree, and I mean, come on, you've got Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson and Oscar Isaac, and this cast is going to do justice to whatever they're given. Denis Villeneuve so far has absolutely nailed intelligent science fiction.
Yep.
Every try. Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. So this article on Aggressive Comics mentions a lot of the people that are involved. Um, they even brought on David Peterson, who created the spoken Dothraki and High Valyrian languages in Game of Thrones. Even though in the book we never hear the Bene Gesserit language Ajar or the Fremen's language Shakobsa, um, maybe he's actually creating say hi to your mom for me, hola, or hola, welcome to the show. But so costume designer is Jacqueline West, and this might be telling from The Revenant, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Quills. Um, Not seeing any science fiction in there. Now, a lot of other people, special effects supervisor Gerd Nevzer from Blade Runner 2049,
Cool.
visual effects supervisor Paul Lambert from First Man and Blade Runner 2049, editor, it's his editor, Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, etc. Production designer is Patrice Vermette from Arrival, Sicario, and The Young Victoria. So that's an interesting combo.
Huh.
Um, so
So probably has a good understanding of how characters fit into production design, not just how to make cool sets.
exactly. Um, so again, I'm not pulling a oh my god, here's our first look at Titans garbage reaction,
Mhm.
as happened when that first showed up, and everybody went, "Why aren't they in costume?" Um,
Got one really, really important question that I don't think this article is going to answer. We may have to wait for the actual movie to answer this important question. Will anybody be in a metal space diaper?
A reference, folks, if you haven't seen the first movie, the brilliant and bizarre and ultimately not terribly good David Lynch movie, reference to Sting playing the character Fade Routha in a very much Rocky Horror kind of space diaper.
Yeah. Having knife fights and being sexy.
Having knife fights and being sexy, exactly. So, do we know who's playing Fade? I don't remember seeing who was cast for Fade. Quick, do the IMDb while I basically tell you that this movie is coming out.
Part 1.
Part 1. Ooh, that's right. It's coming out when?
Wow, that's really weird. You know what? So when is the
We've talked about this so many times. Why can't I remember?
December.
That's right. That's right.
It's in post-production.
And they haven't put it off yet. It is still coming out, in theory, in December.
So here's the thing. If it's in 2 parts, it's distinctly possible that Faye does not appear until part 2. Because he's really mostly just kind of in and out in the earlier bits, but he's really only a factor in the second half. And looking at IMDb, obviously they're in post-production. This isn't casting news anymore. This isn't, early days stuff. There is nobody listed as that role is not called out on the IMDb full cast list. So maybe he's not until part 2.
Yeah, interesting. I can't imagine they wouldn't at least mention him like they do in the book. They introduce him, early enough on that you get a sense of why he's very important as an antagonist, later on.
Don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's for a movie that's already got one of the most stacked casts in recent memory. Maybe it's like, is Benedict Cumberbatch going to play Khan in that Star Trek movie? We'll never tell. Maybe Sting comes back.
Oh God! Faded Routha.
He still has the space diaper.
Faded Routha.
Points.
Thank you. And on that note, I can't think of a better time because it's basically an hour. So this whole Zoom thing isn't going to work great, clearly. But anyway, thank you all for joining, for being in the chat, for asking the wonderful questions and making the great comments that were in there. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you next week. We are going to promote. I got another promotion. I do have a promotion. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, our next cosplay costume profile is not about a costume. We will talk to Makeup Mermaid Cosplay, who was pretty early on in the effort to start taking their skills and abilities and making cloth masks for people. So we'll be talking about that, the effort to make cloth masks that cosplayers are jumping all over and have been jumping all over for a couple of weeks now with Makeup Mermaid Cosplay, 7 o'clock, right here on the YouTubes. So tune in then. Tune in next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock, to watch more of this craziness as we talk about more of the craziness in nerd news from the past week. Greg, if you would, Hagrid, if you would, with your tart in hand.
Promote my delicious custard tarts because I had them here and this is my dinner apparently.
All right. So since Greg now has food in his mouth, that is Wonder Llama Photography. Did I not give you an opportunity to introduce yourself? It was all about the Hagrid stuff.
Well, we touched on it briefly.
All right.
That's fine. If you know me and love me, great. If not, I'm Greg. You may know me as Wonder Llama.
And
you may know me as Hagrid.
Your next reading is when?
Every night, 7 o'clock on Facebook Live. If you're interested, I am reading from Prisoner of Azkaban as Hagrid every night. You can't really see it because I'm zoomed in a little bit, but my loft is now Hagrid's hut, so I've got a set up here. And if you're interested, it is on a Facebook group called Weasley's Whimsical World. Great group of people, super family friendly. If you've got kids and they enjoy Harry Potter, stop by. We do readings. We talk about fun desserts. My wife has been baking a dessert a night for me, so I'm more and more filling out the Hagrid role every night.
Awesome. Luminous, good night. As I exactly as I said before, Rodney Brown, editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, signing off. We will see you next week. Stay safe. Cover your face if you go outside. Don't go outside unless you have to for essential stuff, or if you know you can, keep that social distance and you've got to get out and get that fresh air. There's nothing wrong with that. Walk a beach, whatever. Just don't crowd it with people, and wash them hands. Because that's the thing. And we will see you next week. Bye bye.